Welcome to the Daily Edge. Steve, Jake, Mark, we're the Noodlebergs. Let's find our edge. Today we're going to be defining essentialism and be debunking the myth that in order to get more, you have to do more. Let's find our edge. That starts with the affirmation, which is success doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less better.
What are we doing today, Dad?
Let's.
Well, this whole idea of debunking.
Well, there is a myth.
Showing up to debunk.
Someone give us the definition.
The question for the day is, how do I use essentialism to be elite? And essentialism is based on Greg McKeown's book, right? The Discipline of Pursuit of Less. So the myth that we're debunking.
I've been speaking about this.
Of less. God, I like that.
I've been speaking about this for a long time. I think, especially as we talk about sales leaders, you're struggling, do more. Do more. You gotta do more of the reps and show up more and show up earlier and doing all this stuff. They don't talk about upskilling. They don't talk about how do you get better. Because people who get better don't have to do as much.
Doing more has a runway, right? Like you can only do more for so long. It's exhausting.
It's what burns people out. You made 100 calls, make 150 calls. You're not working hard enough.
When does it ever stop?
And they equated that more with working harder, like it was a badge of honor. I never got that. I said, you know what? Marathon, I'm going to do it daily. I'm going to do a set number of behaviors.
High performers do less, right? Yeah. Let's talk about Kobe for a second, because there's a great story about Kobe Bryant being on the Olympic team, right? And all the young guys being there, and they get to the hotel and they're getting ready and they're coming back in from the night out. And Kobe is headed back to his room after having already finished a lift and been up for 2 hours and in a full sweat.
And they were freaking
out.
Right?
So Kobe wasn't getting less sleep, right? He was getting 8 hours of sleep, maybe even more than that. He was up earlier, right? But not doing more than everybody else.
I have the smile because I know which path you're leading me down. Because when you said high performers actually do less,
right?
Which is the counterintuitive, because he's doing more of the right stuff,
right? Right. So he's actually practicing more than you.
Oh my God! What a revelation! I mean, I think the feedback we get on the process that we've installed for people who are in biz dev. It's 6 behaviors.
Right.
If you get 6 behaviors and you become really, really good at that, I mean, they've asked so many great athletes. I remember when they asked Derek Jeter and he goes, it was boring, man. I did the same things over and over for 20 years, but I got great at those things.
So the concept of essentialism, that word essential, what is essential to the success, right? What are the things that absolutely have to happen in order for me to try to influence the outcome and then do nothing other than that?
So it's really funny.
Like a priority management.
I read this, Gong did a report, and they said that the amount of time that salespeople or biz dev people spend developing new relationships is at the bottom of the heap. It's like the number one thing they're supposed to do. So, but if you ask those people, I'm really busy.
Right.
Busy is
I don't have time. I don't have time for
I think this is the best place to insert, which probably is like the biggest Steveism of life, is success leaves clues.
Right.
Right. And we're going to get into an AI episode down the road here too. So that's going to lead to a whole, but for the most part, success has already been attained by a lot of people. Right. And you've seen what they've done, and they've written books about what they've done.
It's not a secret.
And they've had podcasts, and everybody's talking about everything that they've done to be successful. So there's not necessarily mandatory for you to test everything. Right.
Correct.
But if you are in a new department, you're in a new initiative, sometimes you don't know exactly what's going to lead to success. Right. And you have to test. And so how do you balance that? How do you go from I need to do a lot to see what works to then tailor it back to focus on the things that do work.
That's a really good perspective.
Because I don't think you can
because
just
eliminating behaviors
can hurt.
Is equal to
to doing more of the good things. In order to be able to do more of the things that matter, you got to do less of some other stuff.
When I started speaking, it was one of the pieces of content that got the most. I said, more is not better.
Right.
And people would go, I go, okay, well, I go, so what's better? Better is better. You know, like, be better, be elite, be great at what you do. You're a great trainer.
Networking events, like we talk about that in our process. You know, is it essential to go to the same network and be around the same 12 people?
Same event, same people, same faces, same room, doing it over and over and over every month. Right?
It takes a lot of guts to not go there. Because that's the flow.
To answer your question, Jake, you got to look at the results. If what you're doing is not helping you grow, if you've hit a plateau, then you got to go, we got to change, right? And you might not know what that answer is. You might have to experiment. And then when you experiment, you do it, right? You apply it with some consistency and some discipline. You go, what happened? Right? Could be a week, could be 2 weeks, could be a month, could be 90 days, never more than 90 days. If you're still doing something after 90 days and it's not changing behavior, not changing results for you, you're wasting your time.
He's taught me in the gym, I don't need to go for an hour and a half. I don't need to overdo it. I get in, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I get
But
out.
I got there from testing a lot, though, by doing a lot and over-indexing myself sometimes and learning that way. And so I think that, especially from a younger generation, to have that essentialism for someone who's 27 is tough. Like, because I try to do everything.
Well, you guys have all the time in the world. It's nice.
What would you say is essential in what we do? What is an essential behavior that you would think, if this is the world you live in, you have to be great at this?
Building relationships.
Period.
End of story.
And you know what? Technology, guys, and that's what I love about what's happened to our company, is we've embraced technology in a way I don't think I could have done. But it's made it so much easier to achieve the things that I did without technology. It was hard. It was time consuming. It was not as genuine, I think, as today. In 2 seconds, you can create 5 relationships.
Well, so if you say, what are the essential elements to success for us?
Right.
And you say, okay, it's relationships. Then this is how you figure out what you need to be doing.
Correct.
You go, okay, how do I create relationships? It's impossible to start a relationship without having a conversation. You go, okay, I got to be having conversations. Well, how do I get into conversations? Now, this is where things get crazy, because there's a lot of ways to try to get a conversation. Most people are not willing to get uncomfortable and do other things that help them get conversations. They just want to rely on what they know or what they've done and go, I'll just do more of that to get more. But that doesn't actually get you better. It doesn't actually get you to the results that you want to get to. So answering the question is, you have to define what the absolute mandatory essential key element to success is, and then start to define, well, how do I get there? And that's how you find the behaviors that you then focus more on and less on others.
The young people that are showing up on our doorstep are completely burnt out, frazzled, because they're being pushed to do old school behaviors.
Yes.
That just, this is the way we've always done it. This is it. They think that's essential. And the playbook changed.
Yep.
It's totally changed. So to your point, you tried a lot of stuff. When people show up on our door, they're going, it's just not working anymore. There's desperation. Like, oh my God, we got to come up with something.
You know this from football. The best teams don't run 1,000 plays.
Yeah, right. Keep it simple.
The best teams have a tight playbook. And the ones who execute at the highest level have 10 plays that they love to run and run it 100 different kinds of ways. And they're so good at it that there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. I get back to the part of, if you know exactly what leads to success, it's great. But it's hard to have that thinking when you're first starting. When I first started as a trainer, for me, I had to go into the gym and try different things to develop my process.
For your personal preference.
You were in the hunt for what was essential.
Correct.
There's an
Perfect.
arc.
There's an arc.
But there are fundamentals too that you can just look at and go, okay, well, I know if I want to get in shape, I know I have to move. Right? Like you can't not move.
Well, activity,
right.
Activity is paramount.
I know I have to eat a diet. I know I have to watch my calories or avoid certain things in order to find success.
I think what I'm trying to say is this is not an easy thing to do.
No.
This is not an easy thing
That's
to
why
do.
people get help.
Right. That's why only the elite do it.
Right.
That's why only the elite do it, right? Our promise to everybody that we work with is that we'll keep it simple. Right?
1,000%.
We're not going to make it easy.
1,000%.
We're going to keep it simple because discipline, consistency, and doing anything that makes you great is hard. There's no way around that.
There got to be a ramp up period, I think, where you're going to do a lot.
Or
in order for you to know that it's essential to you, I think there has to be a ramp up period to you then remove or keep.
Did you take clues from people who are other trainers?
Of course.
And then you figure out what works and what you tried it. And
wasn't essential to my clients. Some of the things that they were doing.
And you've defined your client
based on their goals.
Based on my goals.
You've defined your client and what's good for your client.
Right?
Wow.
But I've also done things with clients that I thought were essential and it ended up not
until you find out.
And so that's where
which you were quick to eliminate.
Correct. That's all I mean is there's a ramp up period where you really need to
here's
try
what's fascinating.
Lots.
From the day I got into business, which I was a young kid, I was fascinated what separates the best from the rest.
Yep.
I still am.
Yeah.
If you go into any organization and look at the high performers, they're doing things differently.
Is waking up early essential to success?
I believe it is.
I think so.
No.
No, I believe it is.
For me, it is.
Right. For you, right.
For me, it is. Right. Well, so
I've defined those early morning hours.
So here's what's essential.
Yeah.
Here's what's essential. Getting your time.
Yeah, okay.
There
If you
is.
get
I
your
love we
time
got
late
this.
at night,
There
fine.
we go.
But so the essential part is
that.
figuring out how to get your time to focus on your development.
That's where
whether it's mental
that's fair.
conditioning,
That's where I've
physical
got-
conditioning,
Good.
your growth. You have to have that time.
You need to
For
be really
me,
good.
it's got to be in the morning.
Good.
For other people, it could be at night. Could be in the middle of the day. The majority of people.
Good. And I love that we're talking about it now. You're essential.
So for me,
But the essential is getting your time. That's a non-negotiable.
Whatever that might be. I love
Where
that
it
now
shows
we're
up on your
talking
calendar
about,
is unique to you.
That's why I
So-
love this conversation now. Yep.
But we can't avoid the fact though that there's the basic fundamentals of essentialism, which is you can't do everything. You can't be everything to everybody. You can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. If you look at the greatest
it's a gigantic
companies,
word here, priorities.
Right, there it is.
Right, what's your priority?
you have to define the priorities.
If
for
you want to
yourself.
be great, Kobe wanted to be the best. In order to be the best,
argue with him all as want. His family was not essential to him.
at that time,
it was the second priority,
Right? And so someone else might look at that and go, well, my family, my family is essential.
Right.
Right? You know,
Tom
I'm
Brady.
at a time when I was 26 and
Not
I was
essential.
a special teams coordinator at Cincinnati. Family was backseat. The only thing that mattered to me was football. I made that sacrifice and did that, and also got to the end of that and was like, you know what?
maybe that's
I'm not going to do that again.
Well,
right.
so it's funny. That was what I learned. That was learned behavior. That was my role to get out there, get in front of it, be the earner, do all that stuff. The world has changed. There's so many inputs now that tell you you don't have
fluid.
to do that.
Love this.
People that work a 60 or a 70-hour week, I'm like, what are you out of your mind?
Correct.
It's like
fluid thing. That's what I
you
love that
can't
we're
be
talking about
great
it that way.
because you're burned out.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're tired. That affects mindset. I didn't understand the power of sleep. That's essential to me. Is getting sleep, is hydrating.
We talk about it in the football standpoint. If we have a really good defense one year and a pretty shitty offense, it's essential we run the ball.
Right.
It's essential we run the ball.
You got to protect them. You got to do.
Then the next year we didn't run the ball at all because it was no longer essential to our success. And that's why I love this conversation. It's talking about it in a really fluid standpoint and one where you're constantly auditing to ensure that you are doing the right things. But I love how you said there are the structures that are
So the
noticed.
point of the book,
Right.
The point of the conversation is the high performers are always in search of finding those behaviors.
Right. Right.
I
Gotta get
still
Not
question
doing
it,
more,
right,
but
right.
what do I need to get rid of?
How do
What
I
do I
get
need to
better
add?
at
Moving.
this? How do
Chess
I
pieces.
Right? How do I get better so that I can eliminate it and have for me that morning time is essential because I don't get it any other time.
Right.
It's my time. I've learned to identify that, reading, writing, doing all the things I want to do without any
Love that.
inputs. I'm just putting it out.
So the edge is that you have to understand essentialism in order to be a high performer. And understanding essentialism is being crystal clear on your priorities so that you can do less of all the other garbage that doesn't fit into that and more of the behaviors that feed those priorities. Wonderful edge,
I got
guys.
a question for you, right? Is it harder or easier to be in biz dev?
It's easier.
It's easier. Most people raise their hand and go,
you don't have to go knock on doors all day, every day.
You don't have to cold call. You don't have
to do all that.
Right.
There was a time that you had to.
Right.
So it's definitely easier.
You better be able to build relationships, though. It's essential.
Correct.
It's pretty essential, right?
Thank you for finding your edge with us. Remember to like, comment, and share with somebody. We'll see you next time.